Okay, we have a Mortal Kombat 11 Robocop Basic Trap Setup guide. And when I'm talking about the traps, I'm talking about the bombs he shoots out of different distances where you can amplify and like they explode a little bit later, or the spikes that he shoots out in Variation 3. For clarification, the examples you see, all of these things will be coming from Variation 3. That being said, for the basic setups that I show you, most of them will apply to every single variation. The core functionality of this ability exists in every variation. It just changes and modifies for Variation 3. The special moves that I use and the base strings I use for setting up some of these setups, those are also, for the most part, base moves and base special moves that are in every single variation. I think I only use one special move that's specific to Variation 3. So most of these setups you can apply to every single variation. And when you see the Super Cop, that is Variation 3. I just didn't change the name, just so you guys know. You can place your traps at 4 different ranges. Down, back, 4 by itself place it at about, I would say, mid-range. Down, back, 4 back places a trap at close range. Down, back, 4 forward places a trap at far range, and down, back, 4 up places a trap at very far range, basically the entire length of the screen. You have different startup speeds for placing your traps, and the closer the trap is to you, the faster the startup speed will come out at I-47, versus the further the trap is from you, it will come out at the very far range, will come out at I-57. This is probably not a big deal if you're setting up your traps accordingly, but I don't think it's bad knowledge to know, if that makes any kind of sense. So I figured I'd just tell you guys anyway. Alright, let's talk about the basic functionalities of these traps. If you throw out a trap and it's not amplified, it will hit the ground, and if your opponent is standing in the trap, they will take dot damage, and that is damage over time. And it doesn't matter if they're blocking or if they're not blocking, it's irrelevant. If you amplify the trap, it will become an acid bomb, and if it hits your opponent's body, it will do impact damage or chip damage. They can block it, and it's not guaranteed to actually hit the ground versus the normal trap. The normal trap is guaranteed to hit the ground, but if your acid bomb of your amplified trap hits the ground, it will do damage over time, more damage over time than the regular trap. And if your opponent stands in it long enough, they will get an unblockable stun, and you can combo off of the unblockable stun. And just like the regular trap, it doesn't matter if your opponent is blocking or not. If the acid bomb hits the ground and your opponent is blocking, it will do the same amount of dot damage, and if they don't get out, they will get stunned, and when they're stunned, you can combo off of it. You can consistently throw out a spike trap, a regular trap, and an amplified acid trap. I am emphasizing consistently here because it is extremely difficult, at least in my experience, or very inconsistent to throw out 2 amplified acid traps or to throw out 3 traps, because you can't throw out 3 traps. And if you get the skills down to throw out, for example, 2 amplified acid traps, or just have 2 traps out in general, it really will add some pressure to your opponent. But it is very, very, very inconsistent for me. So I'm showing examples here of throwing out more than 1 trap in terms of the amplified traps or 3 traps. If you guys can consistently do this, please post it in the comments. I'm actually a little bit curious what I'm doing wrong. I'm wondering if I'm just not putting in a proper input execution fast enough or something like that. For pokes, I really like down forward on hit for setting up your traps. I probably shouldn't even say pokes plural, because down 4 is kind of the only poke that I really like for setting up your traps on hit. And there are 2 reasons why. It is plus 14 on hit, which is decent, but it has really good range for a low poke. Like down 4's range is pretty amazing for a low poke. And on hit, it actually has pushback on hit, so it gives you more space. And I'm showing you right here that if you land this poke on hit and then block after throwing out your trap, setting up your trap, it's not easy for your opponent to punish you. Honestly, I'm able to block in this case. There are probably certain very specific situations with certain characters that they can punish you, but my point is it's not an easy thing to do. So I think this is a very solid poke on hit for setting up your traps. If you do want to use your trap setups off of block for down 4, or just in general using other pokes, whether it's on hit or on block, I do suggest you rotating in your right shield parry, because, well, this parry works on projectiles and it works on physical attacks. But anyway, my point is, because if your opponent actually does a physical attack off of you doing a poke off block and they get hit by the parry and then you do damage to them, this will set up some mental frame advantage in certain situations because your opponent will be hesitant to attack you. Then in those situations, you can mix that up and throw out your trap setup instead, and they may not be able to punish you because they're basically waiting for the parry. Okay, moving on to strings for trap setups. We'll start with back 1-2. Now back 1 in itself I actually think is a fairly decent move. It's an 𝐼/12 mid. My only real issue with this move is I just don't feel like it has really good range. I feel like the range is bad. I could be wrong though, but it just feels like the range could be much better to me. And if you complete the string back 1-2, it's kind of like a mini special move. You throw out a bomb and you can control the range of the bomb, close, medium, or far, kind of similar to the traps in general. On block, this is safe, which makes this to me a very solid string coming out in the neutral, it being safe, and it has a little bit of pushback too, which I also think is really good. On hit, back 1-2 knocks your opponent pretty far away, basically the whole length of the screen, give you massive plus frames like plus 44 or something like that. So this is a pretty legit string for setting up your traps. And in most cases, I won't say every case, but in most cases, most opponents won't be able to punish you. This is more situational and definitely kind of a hard read, but if you do read your opponent potentially jumping out of your traps, and I think this is very likely if you use the amplified acid trap, because if they stay in it too long, they will get block stun. You can do a combo. But if you do read your opponent jumping out, you can do your air-to-air shield bash, which is variation 3 Pacific, to kind of lock your opponent down and make them think twice about doing it. But like I said, this is definitely a hard read and more situational. Okay, moving on to the next string, forward 4-2. Now forward 4 by itself has a startup of I-18 and it is a mid. It is slower than back 1, but it has better range. So this is a better spacing tool. And you notice the similarities here that when you land 4-4-2, you do knock your opponent a decent ways away. Alright, let's talk about this string on block, because this string has some interesting properties on block. The second hit is -5, so it is safe on block, but the second hit is also a high. But you can't just duck this all willy-nilly. This is a special high, so to duck and launch this, you have to neutral duck it, meaning you have to duck without actually pressing block to launch this move, or just punish this move in general. Also, this move actually has like an in-up defense in it, so that if you block the move standing and go to neutral duck from there, this will clip you. You can't block this from standing and then just neutral duck. The move will actually hit you. It's kind of crazy to me. So you have to be blocking this move from crouching, release block, neutral duck the high, and then punish the high. I know, right? Crazy. Based off of what I just previously said, this string is a pretty solid string for setting up your traps. On hit, it knocks your opponent a decent range away, and just like previous examples, you can see it's not easy for your opponent to get up and punish you after you've thrown out your traps, if at all. And if you do read your opponent is going to try to jump out of your traps, you can still go for the variation 3 anti-air knee bash. Okay, last string we're going to talk about is the 1-2-1, and you can already see there the standing one doesn't have the best range. I think the range overall is average though. This is your I-8 block punisher. Standing one does come out at 8 frames, so this is your 8 frame block punisher string. That is actually really good because you're gonna have plenty of cases where you're playing people and you block and a move is unsafe. You can easily punish with this string, or cases where somebody's doing a string and there's a gap in the string, you can interrupt this string. So you're gonna have plenty of cases to land this string and set up your traps. Now the jab is a high, so the standing one is a high, so you will probably get downed one if you're just throwing it out. I mean, the down pokes in Mortal Kombat is real, and if your opponent does have a hard read, they will down to crush and blow launch you. On hit, this move has some pretty good plus frames. It's plus 24. It leaves you standing, so you get a standing reset, which is always nice. And icing on the cake, you can special cancel this entire string, so pretty solid string. On block, unfortunately, this is unsafe. So use it for, like I said, as a block punisher or to interrupt strings that you know have gaps in them. Now, once you set up your trap with this move, you are going to be closer than the other strings. But again, showing you examples, it's not easy for your opponent to punish you because of the pushback and because of the plus frames. So you're probably safe in pretty much every situation, but even in situations where you may not be safe, remember that you can mix in your riot shield because you can special cancel this move, and that will give you the mental frames I talked about earlier. This section, I'm just going to reference special moves and combos. I'm not going to go into like extreme detailed examples as I did before, because the concepts are pretty much the same and I don't want to be like too repetitive. So I am showing examples of things I'm talking about in the background though, so you can just look at that. So for example, a special move like back forward 1, amplified on hit, knocks your opponent clear across the screen. You can apply the same concepts that I told you about basically for back 1, 2, the way that string knocks you clear across the screen. The concepts and everything apply for back forward 1 amplify. If you do a combo and you end the combo with a move that knocks you across the screen, again, for the most part, the same rules will probably apply. If you do a combo that has a special cancel at the end, and if you choose to sacrifice doing a special cancel move for a combo ender that will give you damage and instead special cancel into your trap, that is a valuable option. You're giving up damage, but you're getting your pressure trap setups there. I'm showing you examples again on the screen so you can do that. But those are pretty much all I got right now for the basic guides. If you guys actually know some more concrete setups, please post them in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really does help my channel a lot. It really does. And that's it. This is Acid Light. You guys take care.